You're now 3 years out of residency. You've worked urgent cares, primary care offices, semi-hospitalist positions. Was the juice worth the squeeze? Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Wednesday Checkup. As promised, I have my special guest here, Dr. Luis Espina.
Hello.
Dr. Luis Espina is quite the special character. We did residency together, even though we're a few years apart. Do you want to say how many years apart? We're not going to do that here.
I'm almost old enough to be your dad. Yeah. So we're kind of a few years apart.
A few years apart. I'm putting it nicely.
Yeah,
I'm trying to be as kind as possible.
You are kind.
Because ageism is a thing.
Ageism is a thing. I joke about my age. It doesn't really bother me.
In my last responding to comments video, someone asked, should they pursue medicine as a second career in their midlife? And I thought to myself, who do I know in their midlife
Hopefully.
that went into medicine? And my mind went to no other person than this lovely doctor by my side, who actually was my senior resident.
I was.
He was a second year when I came in as a first year, and he was my quote unquote buddy when I was an intern. And the buddies are second years that help out the first years. And then when I was a second year and he was a third year and we both happened to be on call, we would hang out a lot.
Yeah.
Talk about life.
Yeah, we were roommates for a while. It was like going away to summer camp. It was a lot of fun.
Well, you would have to be hanging out in the room to be roommates. We were running around the hospital, especially you.
Yeah, we didn't do much hanging around, truth be told. We ran around the hospital.
What was your career prior to medicine?
So that's so I was an engineer. I guess I still am an engineer. I don't have to give that one back. I was a mechanical engineer first and did that for a number of years. And then ended up doing, I have a master's in biomedical engineering and I worked for a medical device company.
Just casually a biomedical engineering degree.
And then here I am.
Now wait, to me, you told me you used to work on planes.
So that was before I was ever an engineer. I went to...
This guy had 48 jobs prior to becoming a doctor. I want to figure out how you go from working on planes to getting a biomedical engineering degree, to then waking up, working at a prestigious company and saying, I want to go back and be a scrub in medical school. How old were you, by the way?
When I started medical school, I was 37 years old. A friend of the family's was over to visit. And my mother was behind me, the lady was down the stairs at the front steps of my house, and I was walking down the stairs to help her with something to the car. And she kind of offhandedly asked, Luisito, I'm my dad's Luis, and I'm Luisito, right? So
I call him Papacito.
He calls me Papacito. So the friend of the family turns around and she says, Luisito, what do you think you're gonna do, for a living? What do you think you're gonna do? And I said, well, I've been thinking about biomedical engineering. And I can still hear my mother's voice over my shoulder. She says, Metica, the day he realizes he has a doctor in his heart, he'll be happy and he'll be free. The process started, and Dr. Armitrano, who was my anatomy and physiology professor, made me fall in love with the anatomy and the physiology and the chemistry classes and the organic classes and biology. And I just kept falling deeper and deeper in love. But then I financially, it was just me and my mom. And, I was like, maybe I need to get to work and stop with this nonsense of 4 more years of school. So I was like, we'll do the engineering and we'll get out. And as time went on, I finished engineering. I didn't go to school for a year or two. And then I went to grad school while I was working and got my master's in biomedical. And then at that point, it bit me, and I really wanted to be a doctor. I ended up doing grad classes at UMD&J.
What was the day that you say, I'm applying to med school? Do you remember the day?
Yeah, I remember applying, and I remember that...
Did you tell your wife before you applied?
Yeah, well, we weren't even married yet. We weren't even married
well,
yet.
I'm going to call her your wife.
We've been married forever. But we were dating still at the time, and she knew what I was doing, and...
Did she say you were crazy?
No, Jennifer's always been, for some bizarre reason, the woman's always believed in me, and she just... In her mind, she knew it might be messy, but it would get done. We were talking about getting married, buying a house, and everything else.
But instead, you're like, I want to do the $275,000 in debt and 8 more years of education. Yeah. Because you really wanted to meet me in the future.
I did.
Was that it?
Man, you were the...
No, be honest.
You were the cherry on top.
I hate making this channel about me, but I feel like that's what it was.
It really was.
Honest.
It was all about him. I knew that he was coming out of his diapers at this time. But yes, for me, among the things that I love about being a physician. When I'm at work, I never have to justify to myself what it is that I do. I'm a very simple guy. I'm not a complex person. I need to just be able to very quickly tell myself, okay, you're doing this for this reason. So when I walk into the room and I close the door and it's me and the patient, that's why I'm doing it.
What's the biggest surprise starting third or fourth year clerkships when you were actually in the hospital that shocked you?
A lot of things shock you. Fatigue shocks you, exhaustion shocks you.
For me, it was paperwork.
Well, that didn't shock me as much because I
You had
paid more
experience.
attention to it. The other thing that I will tell you that I still to this day, I've come to terms with it, but it is something that I do on a daily basis, which is I wrap my arms around my own ignorance.
Okay.
The greatest thing that I learned in medicine is how much you don't know and how much you have to constantly read and study and read and study. There is no, oh, I graduated and it's over. It's every day of your life. Just now we were talking about something and it drives me so crazy that I have to look it up right away and read about it and what is it and refresh your memory. And actually that's part of the charm.
You're always learning.
And if you love to learn and you're a nerd like me, you know, I
Like us. Can you throw me in there?
You are, man. You are.
Right, but us.
We speak nerd fluently.
Okay, good.
And it's a good thing. The drive basically comes from that. It's that combination of the most beautiful things you can imagine. Science with all its beauty. Technology nowadays is incredible, the things that we can do. And then you add a human element. And that is honestly one of the most beautiful parts of it, if not the most beautiful part. When you close the door in that exam room and it's you and the patient, it's a dance. And it's a lot of times the patient comes in and the chief complaint written down by the MA is sore throat. And you walk in the door and before this visit is out, this patient is crying their eyes out, telling you their deepest fears and things that they've experienced and pains that they're having and things that they were terrified of. They told the nurse that they had a sore throat, but you have that moment and you make that connection. And to have the privilege of walking that mile with that patient is something kind of heady and kind of big. I'll complain about being tired. I'll complain about the paperwork endlessly. My son will just look at me when I break out the computer and goes, ugh, notes. And
Electronic health record.
It's just, it's
EMR.
It's agony. Prior authorizations, all of these things, they're crazy. And it's the price you pay for the privilege of the dance.
He's so much more poetic than I. I make my video about med school and I keep it super practical. This guy comes in and makes an analogy of medicine as a dance.
Don't let him kid you.
This guy.
So one of the things about this experience I've said is the people. So when I first find out who my buddy is going to be, I see this guy's picture and I'm like, oh, who's this young, pretty boy? I am not going to deal with this kid. So one night I was sitting at my cubicle, he was sitting at his cubicle. And it's really the first time we've ever exchanged words because he was on other rotations. In the first few hours that I knew this young man, I knew that I'd met another brother in this walk through life. And I realized the depth and breadth of life that one can experience in such a short time. And it was another reminder of don't ever judge the book by the cover. Get to know the story, find out what's going on, because you have an opportunity to meet amazing people and do beautiful things and learn and experience. And that's something that I've gotten from him.
What is the biggest challenge that you had as a almost 40-year-old in comparison to your 20-year-old colleagues?
Fear.
What fear is that?
Fear.
What were you afraid of?
Fear. I was afraid of everything. I was afraid of making the wrong decision. I was afraid of not knowing enough. I was afraid of, when you're 20, you look at the patient as them and you are us. And this is a game. And it's AA, upstick, right trigger.
He knows what that is. I'm impressed already. You do it a little bit more realistic.
Right, so it's, AA, upstick,
There's
right
no
trigger.
A on the PlayStation controller. That's
I don't know these
Xbox.
things. I'm not saying that they don't care. I'm not saying that they're not empathetic. I've met young people that care. It's just, there is a separation. I was that young once, and you look at a 40, 50-year-old and you go, God, that's, never. I look at you guys and I'm like, this was last week. What the hell happened to me? Where's my hair? What's with the gray? When I would see a patient, it wasn't, holy cow, you have this disease. It was like, my God, man, we have this disease. What are we going to do? You know? So it was that fear. It was the fear of making the wrong decision about residency. It was the fear of studying for the test wrong and studying frequently wrong for the test.
Is that because the family is on your
Yeah,
mind?
because the stakes were so high. It was any mistake that I made, I felt like I was failing my wife, my son.
So how did you deal with that pressure?
Badly. I internalized a lot of it. I used to smoke like a bloody chimney. I remember
As a doctor.
I remember the first time that I saw in an anatomy lab that I saw lungs from a smoker. It made me so nervous I went outside and had a cigarette. It was, and it wasn't until the end of
Don't
medical
do that.
It wasn't until the end of medical school that I actually stopped. And it was, stressed and bad sleep and I wish that I could say that my age and maturity contributed to smooth sailing and everything was beautiful. And the truth is, it was not that. It was a road of many falls and picking yourself up again and facing it again and again and feeling like, you don't deserve to be here and getting up and facing it again. And that constant feeling of fear and self anger and loathing for your inadequacies. And even with the patients, when you don't know the answer, when the attending asks you the question, you feel less than. And I've seen that a lot in older students. There's that commonality that there's that pressure of like, my God, my husband's going to kill me, my wife's going to kill me, my partner's going to kill me. I got to do this. And, it adds another element.
Positive. What advantages did you have being nearly 40 in med school with colleagues like myself at
That
20?
you would have to kill me to make me quit. You would have to kill me to make me quit. They were going to take out a graduate or they were going to take a cadaver out of that school. There was no other way it was going to go.
Now, what about life experience? Didn't that help?
I've always been a guy who kind of could talk to anyone, and it's useful because those experiences are valuable. When somebody's in pain and they're showing up and they're in pain and they're terrified, you need to be able to connect to that person now.
Quickly.
And if your perspective is very limited, you've only had certain experiences in life, these are your circle of friends, these are the only people you know, you haven't failed in life, you haven't had a bad day, you haven't, had these things, it's hard to connect. It's harder. I've seen people do it. It's hard.
Well, that's why diversity in medicine is important. And not just sex, religion, race, but also diversity of ideas. All of this needs to be
Absolutely.
there. I was 24 when I started residency. Everyone would look at me and be like, what are you? You're 20, you
Yeah.
can't be my doctor.
No, that does
So there
happen.
was some sort of preconceived
That
notions
does
of being young. So did it help being an older presence in the room? A more mature presence, sorry. Don't hit me.
It does. It helped. It's certainly an advantage. The negative is the fear. The positive is you bring to the table all these things.
Yeah.
And the other thing that I also saw a lot with the older students was you'd have to kill them. They would not quit.
Stop, yeah. On the day of your residency graduation, which I was fortunate enough to attend, here's some cute pictures of it, me and little Louie.
That's my boy.
What did your wife tell you?
My wife and I don't really have to talk too much anymore. She can just look at me and tell me a story. And sometimes just the way she'll touch my hand, I know what she's thinking. And it was just a long, hard road. And it's not over. And what I always feel from her, and I'm eternally grateful for, is her support. And I feel her love, I feel all of that, but my wife and I, we've been together a long time. And we've done a lot of things together. We scuba dive together, we have gone mountain climbing together, camping, kayaking, she's my partner in crime, she's my best friend, we do everything together. So there's a lot of communication that goes on between us without words. Because it's, she's been my partner throughout all of this. And she doesn't have to say too much. She just can look at me and tell me, she's proud.
What did her look tell you?
That she was proud. That she was proud, and that every once in a while she's like, the old man can still keep going. So he's doing all right.
You're now 3 years out of residency. You've worked urgent cares, primary care offices, semi-hospitalist positions. Was the juice worth the squeeze?
Yes. Now, I reserve the right to complain. I love being a physician. If you ask the engineer, did this make sense? The answer logically would be no. The opportunity cost to get into medical school and to be in medical school is so high that, it's just the debt is daunting. And you have a family and, it's daunting. It really is daunting. That being said, sometimes I joke and I call medicine my mistress. She takes my money, she keeps me away from my family, she runs me ragged and treats me bad, but I love her and I keep going back. I don't know how else to say it. It's a beautiful experience to care for your patients. It's so beautiful, but you are putting your family through a lot of sacrifices. You are putting yourself through a lot of sacrifices. So my advice to anybody who's going to do this, if you are doing this because you want to drive a Maserati and you want to have nice clothes and you want to live, you might achieve that. If that's your reason, I think you would be better served doing something else. You have to love the science. You have to love the learning. You have to want the ball. Again, old movie, winners want the ball. You got to be that person. You want the ball. You always want to be the one. And if that's you, come on down.
I think there's no better way to end that.
Yeah.
We have to hug it out.
All right.
Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you want to see this gentleman again, come back on Sunday. We're going to do a Grey's Anatomy review. If you want to see more reviews, medical drama reviews, Adam Ruins Everything reviews, click here down below. And as always, stay happy and
healthy.
You know it.